That's right.
The best part about being a superhero is that you can have various identities, whether it's a teenage photographer at the Daily Bugle, a reporter at the Daily Planet, or a genius, billionaire, playboy philanthropist. It goes a step further when you consider the fact that these superheroes can transform in super impressive fashion. You know the TV Regent is a sucker for a spectacle, so today you're getting the top 25 most legendary transformations in superhero movies. Now, you may not be familiar with 1997's Spawn, which I consider to be the first proper live-action superhero film. Michael Jai White totally nailed it as a CIA agent turned badass boss man, and even though he's not really remembered for this role, at least he's maintained his tough guy image throughout the years.
You'll pay for this!
Give my regards to your boss. Tell him he's next.
Now, when it comes to Simmons transforming into Spawn, it's actually a scene which is born straight out of spite after he learns that his best friend ended up marrying his wife after his passing. Yeah, bro, I get it. You're questioning loyalties.
Women.
But I guess you could excuse them for not knowing you'd come back as a half-Venom entity. The detailing of the transformation is quite impressive considering the fact that this film was made over 26 years ago, and even the prosthetics on Michael Jai White look really impressive. Also, I'm aware that he's supposed to be a forced warrior of the demon, but from the way Spawn was behaving, it almost felt as if he had become the devil himself. If only they could reboot this franchise somehow. I feel that the superhero genre would actually stand a chance of survival.
What is this?
Oh, you were tied to the tracks and that stupid train just kept running over you now, didn't it? Running over you.
So, if you're looking for the most powerful mutants on the planet, I'm not sure a dude with bird wings would be your first choice.
What the hell is this?
However, with the way Apocalypse likes to operate, I can understand why he went to such lengths to make Angel look so badass. The transformation, of course, was one of the best moments of the entire film, especially when you look at all those bones coming out of his spine and turning into this supreme metallic element. So this is what the comic showcases Angel turning to the dark side by becoming Archangel, and it kind of suits the grim environment around him, since it's supposed to be symbolic of a fallen angel.
Nice, my angel.
I'm personally convinced that Apocalypse did this to Angel not because he sees his power as special, but because his god complex wants his own personal angel by his side. Of course, I also have to shout out the Supreme soundtrack by Metallica playing in the background. It did make sense to have their own Four Horsemen song playing as Apocalypse formed his own. Sure, there are people who say that they prefer the original Wings to these, but when you have a whole movie with as many flaws as X-Men Apocalypse, you gotta just take as many W's as you can get. You know, it's just sometimes necessary to make Bruce Banner get angry because A, he can help you save the world, and B, he'll give you an epic transformation. Now, this particular scene is supposed to make Bruce say goodbye to the Hulk forever, but we all know how that turned out towards the end of this film, didn't we? The Incredible Hulk had this great visual style typical of its era, and it helped this scene look so much more realistic. The way Banner's bones crack and snap as they readjust to support the structure of the Hulk makes this sequence so much better and sincere. The fact that they made it look so slow and gruesome and painful is actually why I like this moment so much. I mean, seriously, you can literally feel the tone and the atmosphere of being a Hulk and the consequences as well. I've said it before, and I'm gonna say it again, we need Edward Norton to come back as the Hulk. I don't care what multiverse theory Marvel will have to pull to make it happen, but just do it. Having said that, I'd like to take comfort in the fact that in an alternate universe somewhere, Norton is still playing this Hulk in the MCU.
Bruce, look at me. Stay with me. The antidote. Now.
Having a suitcase is always a good thing, whether you're trying to plan a trip in a foreign country or if a crazy Russian dude is trying to split you in half with his whips. Luckily for Iron Man, this is never an issue for him. In the case Tony doesn't have a suit, he brought a suit that turns into a case called the suitcase suit. It suits Tony. Get it? Apologies, look, I guess it has been a while since I cracked a dad joke, hasn't it? Alright, anyway, now this suit is apparently supposed to be weaker than the normal armor because it's a lot thinner than the rest of them. Not only that, it also doesn't seem to have any weapons besides those basic repulsor blasts. Having said that, it rocks. I'd love to have one. Can you imagine how cool you'd look if you were to transform like this at Comic-Con or something? The only thing you'd probably have to take care of is not letting your hair get caught in the armor. Now, I'll admit that the music, camera angles and editing are what make this scene as iconic as it is, because it'd be pretty awkward to just stand there and watch a middle-aged billionaire transforming into a lethal weapon. I guess Ivan really wanted to prove a point, but from the way their battle eventually unfolded, he clearly misread the situation. It's not often that you see a transformation that makes you thankful for an accident. After an unfortunate incident with a flame, Destro assumes his true form after an injection, and the moment is so instant that you don't even realize what's happened by the time you notice bro's doing some serious Silver Surfer cosplay. Well, it's limited to his head, but that still counts, doesn't it? I remember being so blown away by this scene as a teenager when I first saw it in the cinema halls, because it also had another character doing the rounds. That bit where Cobra Commander turns around and goes, "You will call me Commander," still gives me a few chills whenever I think about it.
You will call me Commander.
Of course, it's a bit ironic for him as well, considering the fact that he gets captured by the Joes not too long after. However, we're not looking at any extended moments, just the transformation of Destro, so we're going to stick to that, okay? Also, can we take a moment to appreciate the character design? We have Cobra Commander, who looks so different that he's even hard to recognize, and then we have Destro, who looks completely like his cartoon self. It's hard to believe it's in a movie. It's literally two ends of a spectrum in the same room.
The time has come for the Cobra to rise up and reveal himself.
Let's ride.
If you see the words legendary and transformation in a TV Regent video, then you can rest assured you'll find Ghost Rider somewhere. I mean, I'm a certified Nicolas Cage fan, so the bias is real, but I don't care because this scene totally deserves its spot based on merit as well. The funny thing though, is that it's not Johnny Blaze who takes center stage here, but rather Slade, who completely surprises us all with his transformation into the Caretaker. Even Ghost Rider himself was wowed by this visual, and if you consider the fact that the freaking horse also turns into a flaming beast, it's an outright winner. It's almost as if the creators were like, how do we make Slade look even more badass? Oh, we can turn his horse into a Pokemon.
Can you keep up?
No jokes, this is the closest we got to a live-action rapid dash for crying out loud. Yeah, even Blaze turns into his Ghost Rider attire, but mainly works as an enhancement rather than anything else. The part where both Caretaker and Ghost Rider partake in their final ride together just made the whole thing that much more iconic as well. Man, imagine if you added their skins in the next Need for Speed game. You could literally relive the scene as many times as you want.
Carter Slade.
You know, they're not messing around when they say you shouldn't play with fire. That's exactly what happens here when Roberto turns into Sunspot after getting freaked out by those weird apparitions. To be honest, I look at him like some dollar store version of the Human Torch, but the intensity of his transformation over here is just too good to ignore. Hey, the MCU can actually do something pretty cool with both of these characters now that they have the rights to them both. Anyway, back to the scene. The shouts of agony that eventually turn into screams of anger would make anyone wet themselves because you don't want to run into a heated mutant who can, well, burn you to a crisp. I'm not even sure that those smiling men knew what they were doing here by messing around with Roberto the way they did.
What?
I mean, one of them got an instant burn when things went too far, but yeah, my focus still remains on the pool scene because of the full body transformation. Sure, he gets whacked into the swimming pool again to calm down and reflect on what he's done, but if we're being serious here, the other mutants dodged a bullet because anyone would be on edge after seeing an illusion of their girlfriend getting burnt. Hey, I'm not one to judge, so let's keep it PG and focus on this transformation that's simply way too good to ignore. There's
Open your eyes.
Doctor Who may be on a downward spiral ever since they decided to go woke, go broke, but there's one Doctor who still has his self-respect, and that's Doctor Strange.
What did you just do to me?
Well, even that's hanging by a small thread thanks to the MCU, but hey, he's still one of the major surviving characters, so I'll give him that much. Anyway, the point of focus here is when Stephen Strange finally lets go of his ego and becomes one with whatever the heck those psychedelic visuals were that turned him into the Sorcerer Supreme's successor. This is such an extreme and intense moment that even a sober dude would have needed to calm himself down after seeing it. Inspiration is heavy from the Stargate sequence of 2001: A Space Odyssey, and kudos to the visual effects team for coming through so nicely on this one. I wonder what these guys are doing nowadays, because they clearly can't be people who are animating the garbage effects that we see nowadays. The fact this movie lost the Best Visuals Oscar to Jungle Book is a criminal offense, and I'm still pissed off about that almost 8 years later. Also, I wonder if this is what Loki had to go through in Thor Ragnarok when Strange had him falling for 30 minutes.
I thought he was dead.
Now, this isn't exactly a scene, but rather a collection of various moments, all of which eventually turned Harvey Dent into Two-Face. It's a transformation that I keep coming back to time and time again because the philosophical nature of it is just too damn deep to ignore.
Who's the only one who lost everything?
The fact that Harvey pretty much foreshadowed his own future is exactly the kind of thing that Martin Scorsese would call true cinema. He didn't die a hero because Batman saved him instead of Rachel, so he ended up turning into a villain who did everything the opposite way. Now, the actual face burn happens when he and Bruce Wayne both lose Rachel in front of their eyes, but the hospital scene is the turning point for Harvey. That's because we get to see his new avatar, and despite that hilarious moment where he only recognizes the Joker after he pulls off his mask, this is an extremely important scene for the overall resolution of the film. Yep, Christopher Nolan really needs to return to superhero movies if we want to save the genre. Even the boys ain't hitting the way it used to before.
Okay, fine. You either die a hero, or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
The typical turntable situation that we've all known and loved for decades of cinema.
It's going into replication.
Hey, Pa, still nothing.
The Matrix is revolutionary, legendary, and many similar adjectives, but since we're doing transformations today, let's take a look at how Neo totally owns Agent Smith after becoming the One. Going from a completely clueless fighter to an absolutely savage one is the kind of twist that everyone was hoping for towards the climax of the movie, and I'm glad they managed to get the job done as well as they did with this particular scene. Neo blocking Agent Smith with one hand while not looking is pure disrespect, and I love it.
Tank, we're going to need a signal soon.
Also, this scene takes me back to an earlier one with Neo and Morpheus where they talk about fighting. Neo asks, "What are you trying to tell me? That I can dodge bullets?" And Morpheus replies, "No, Neo, I'm trying to tell you that when you're ready, you won't have to." Even the other agents realize that there's no way they're going to match up to Neo now, so they decide to let Smith get violated alone. I guess everyone really does tremble when they come across greatness. The Hulk is the kind of dude who has tons of issues of his own, so it shouldn't be that much of a shocker to learn that his dad's a bit of a mess himself. David Banner hasn't really shown himself apart from the widely polarizing 2003 Hulk movie, but I think he should be given a chance in the MCU. After all, he's absorbing, man, and that dude has some serious powers. His final transformation scene is a deadly one because 20 years ago, this was considered to be unsettling. Seeing him fire all of those radiation rays at him to further his own powers was an evil move, but it did work in his favor, which was why he was able to give his own son such a good fight. Technically speaking, he lost that battle because he won by getting Hulk to give him all his power. However, my focus is simply on the old dude turning into an extended slob. The special effects of the hand absorbing the metal and slowly sliding through the molecules still looks amazing to this day. Also, assuming that he didn't have full control of his power right away, he should have been 70% polyester, 30% cotton because of his clothes.
Eyes, lungs, pancreas.
For every Hagrid saying, "You're a wizard, Harry," there's a Venom saying, "You're a loser, Eddie."
I am inside your head. You are a loser, Eddie.
Okay, so these movies aren't supposed to be Oscar material, but they still managed to give us some memorable moments. Take the first ever full body transformation that Eddie Brock undergoes to become Venom. It's right after a hectic bike chase that pretty much breaks every bone in his body, and then boom, you've got yourself a BBC. And by that I mean big black creature. Get your mind out of the gutter, okay? Seeing Venom properly for the first time like this was epic AF, and it really got the crowd going in the cinema halls. Of course, I'll never understand cop logic because they just witnessed a giant extraterrestrial creature literally just bite somebody's head off, and the first thing they do is shout, "SFPD, don't move." Like, what do you think's gonna happen there? You're gonna handcuff Venom and arrest him without any resistance?
And you are mine.
You bit somebody's head off.
Anyway, I love Venom's personality here. He strikes the perfect balance between a homicidal monster and an adorable friend. Plus, his voice is so much more threatening and deadly over here. What's with that grumpy grandpa voice he has in the sequel?
So many snacks, so little time.
So I've come to peace with this version of Deadpool, but that doesn't mean I'll forgive the Fox X-Men creators for coming up with the idea in the first place. Having said that, Weapon 11's gradual transformation from talkative sword boy to mute monster is a pretty impressive section of the film. Like the Harvey Dent entry, this isn't restricted to just one scene, but rather covers a sequence of events. With Stryker assembling multiple mutants and their powers to cumulatively create Weapon 11, the final product is a seemingly unstoppable beast. His very first appearance in front of Wolverine is symbolic of the tiresome effort it took to create him in the first place. And yes, it looks badass enough to warrant a spot on this video. Also, I know I haven't mentioned this in a while,
Maybe you do.
but the reason they call this guy Deadpool is because he's a dead mutant who has the powers of other dead mutants all pulled together into his body. Is this an accurate interpretation or just a dad joke gone wrong? I'll leave you to decide. It's top 10 time, baby, and I'm kicking it off with a character known for his angry green transformations. It's apt for me to go with the OG live action version of the Hulk because it's a nicely developed concept for the character. The slow nature of his transformation placed against the dimly lit surroundings perfectly prepares us for the monster that's about to come. And you know what? It's exactly how he should be portrayed. The Hulk isn't just a big green smashing thing. He's a combination and a product of all of the abuse and repression Bruce Banner has been holding down his entire life. The Hulk's whole arc as a character is a meditation on what anger can do to you psychologically. And since everyone likes deep, dark depictions of comic book characters, I have a feeling that if the CGI was a bit updated and it were released now, it would have done better than it did 21 years ago. Also, this is the best sounding roar I've ever heard from him. He's not only filled with anger and hatred, but you can also hear the trauma and agony that Bruce has been through. Thinking about films like this one gives me a lot of nostalgia because even though it's just about 13 years old, the first Captain America film reminds me of the time the MCU films meant something.
Comfortable? It's a little big.
Okay, I'm not going to go on some emo trip now, so let's just focus on Steve Rogers turning from skinny boy to muscle man.
Can you hear me?
It's probably too late to go to the bathroom, right?
The transformation is peak human fitness enhancement, and I can guarantee you that no gym will have this kind of machine. See, you don't need bulky trainers to give you your dream body, just get yourself a Howard Stark and Dr. Abraham. Just look at the way Peggy is absolutely violating Steve Rogers here with her eyes. Yeah, those intrusive thoughts were totally getting the better of her. Peggy even cops a feel, which is harassment if you think about it, but considering Hayley Atwell herself is a sight for sore eyes, I'm sure bro wouldn't have been complaining. It actually makes you wonder if there's a reason she's called Peg Carter. If you know, you know. Man, we really need the iconic spin that turns Princess Diana to Wonder Woman, but I suppose Gal Gadot taking her coat off ain't that bad either.
She's taking all the fire, let's go!
Well, at least she has the tiara on as an homage to the comics, and she also subtly lets her hair down, which should count as paying tribute to Linda Carter's rendition of the character. The No Man's Land scene is where we're at for this transformation, and to be honest, it isn't more than a costume change, but the background score and editing combine to give us a heightened sense of greatness from Wonder Woman. She's found purpose in her true being.
Steve! Let's go!
And she's found her calling as a badass goddess who can take down full armies all by herself. That's the significance of this sequence, and why it finds its way so high up on my list. When it comes to animation, there's Japanese anime, Disney animations, and Sony's Spider-Verse franchise. Yeah, these guys have carved their own niche in the industry, and I'm glad because it's the visuals coupled with a cool soundtrack that make this transformation so iconic. Miles Morales is a pretty badass character, but he's just about finding his feet over here, or should I say finding his webs?
Made 'em myself. They fit perfectly.
Anyway, the time he accepts himself as Spider-Man and takes that leap of faith in his new outfit is one of the highlights of this movie, and I've got to give credit to the animators for really pushing the boundaries of American animation with this one. Also, the fact that Spider-Gwen and Peter Parker told Miles relax to unstick, only for him to break the glass while trying to let go, means he really wasn't actually ready and was nervous AF. Bro took a literal leap of faith. Man, it must be part of the comic book code of conduct that all superheroes and supervillains have to be created by a hilarious lack of safety precautions. In the case of Dr. Manhattan in 2009's Watchmen, we've also got a girlfriend who literally leaves him to get zapped into oblivion. Like, what's the deal with these women? You've got the unfaithful Mary Jane from Sam Raimi's Spider-Man trilogy, then you've got that painfully annoying Amber, who thinks serving soup is more important than saving the world. And now...
Adrian.
This Janie woman. The only good girlfriend was Gwen Stacy, and they decided to snap her out of the movie, just like Thanos snapped half of the universe out of existence. Anyway, the transformation scene is epic and tragic at the same time here, because while we do get to see the birth of the most omnipotent being in the galaxy, we also witness the demise of a humble man who was only hoping to live a normal life with the woman he loved.
Disappointed.
This was the moment that really kicked off the hype for Infinity War. Well, we only got to see the actual transformation in the cinemas, but there were enough fan theories out there to let us all know that the nanotech suit for Iron Man was going to reveal itself in this particular scene.
It means get lost, Squidward.
He exhausts me. Bring me the stone.
The stakes are already high as Cull Obsidian is charging at our heroes and Hulk is facing performance anxiety. So Tony Stark does Tony Stark things and transforms into his nanosuit with an added touch of sass and a perpetual dose of class. I can't even begin to explain how crazy people went when they saw this on the big screen for the first time, and it was well worth the wait after the events of Civil War.
Wong, you're invited to my wedding.
Finishing off the transformation by blasting his opponent away was the cherry on the cake, which catapulted this scene into my top 5. Also, if you think about it, Iron Man has witnessed 2 men facing performance issues. There was Loki and his scepter in the OG Avengers as well, so maybe it's Tony that's the problem, not these nervous men.
Wait. Thanks.
There's nothing like a legacy character showing up this close to the top spot, and of course, it had to be our OG Spidey, Tobey Maguire. Peter Parker's first encounter with the radioactive spider may not have had much to talk about, although the spider's design was pretty cool if you ask me. The real impact comes the next day when we see that Peter hasn't just become ripped, but also got perfect eyesight as well. Sam Raimi does a splendid job of making this moment seem huge while also presenting it in a simplistic fashion, a teenage boy's room. Well, it would have been awkward if he started shooting out some other kinds of webs, so at least we got a family-friendly moment here. This was a slow and gradual build-up to the ultimate moment where he did become Spider-Man, and it's carefully crafted moments like these that make me want to watch these films more than that recent trash you see on the streaming sites.
Yeah?
Are you alright?
I'm fine.
Any better this morning? Any experience?
Change?
That's my secret, Cat. I'm always angry.
Yep, the Leviathan Punch may be one of the most badass displays of power, but it also doubles up as a legendary transformation. So here it is in all of its glory. Now that I've finally mentioned the Mark Ruffalo Hulk, this video has officially mentioned all 3 versions of the Angry Green Giant. Ain't that nice? You wanna know what else is nice? Transforming within a couple of seconds only to destroy a monster that's probably larger than the blue whale. It's a perfect combination of humor, flexing, and neat visuals that gives us the Hulk's most respectable moment in the MCU.
I am a god, you dull creature.
Even this guy was pretty good, but then they turned him into a little wuss who liked taking selfies for no good reason.
Hold on.
We're in the endgame now, so all entries are going to be legacy level stuff. Wolverine's transformation from bone claws to adamantium ones wasn't a smooth ride. In fact, it was probably the most painful thing he's ever had to endure in his entire life.
Let's do this.
However, the final result was well worth the trouble, because just look at this masterpiece of a monster they created. This is exactly why Logan is such a loved character, and also why he's inspired a generation of Sigma males and Giga Chads to be just like him. By that, I mean tough and badass, not traumatized and murderous. The pain could easily be felt even though Wolverine was submerged in water the whole time, and then to see those adamantium claws coming out followed by the money shot, well, it was perfect. Just perfect.
It was perfect. Perfect. Everything.
I think you heard you.
I mentioned another scene from Ghost Rider earlier, so that should have served as a hint that this one was around the corner somewhere. Well, that corner happens to be the top spot for today, and it's well deserved. Seeing Nick Cage go full psycho mode before turning into the Ghost Rider was exactly what everyone needed to see, and while others may question his acting in the scene, I think he sells a depraved monster's attitude perfectly. Follow that up with a cool chain whip and you've got yourself a total winner. Even Blackheart was a bit perturbed when he saw how powerful his opponent was, so that in itself should prove why you should never mess around with Hollywood's favourite madman. Hope you like this video, please subscribe to the TV Regent, and here's another video that I know you'll enjoy.